Two small successive blasts ripped into the darkness. The sudden light washed out my night vision goggles. I ducked back down behind the wall. In the moment that I paused, my fear returned. I had just watched my college roommate get blown up. It wasn't the fear of my own death that brought me out of my confused state. It was the fear of his. In the second that I leaned against that wall, I thought about our uncommon friendship. I remembered that I had convinced him to request this unit. Now I thought he was gone. What would I tell his mom and dad? Sorry I didn't shoot out that light bulb? Anger overcame me. I was no longer emotionally withdrawn. I popped back up over the wall. Smoke still lingered 20 feet away. I could hear Corporal Davila and Lieutenant Trotter shouting orders. Then James Thomas sprinted through the intersection, heading toward the building I was in. I thought I might be seeing things. The sound of his voice shouting into his personal roll radio confirmed that he was real. I headed down into the house, praying that my indecision regarding the light bulb hadn't killed his RO. I stopped on the second floor where Captain Smith was. Knowing James, I could imagine only one thing going through his mind. Update Rage 6 on Rage 2 status. I was right. He sprinted past every Marine in the house, shouting at each one, "Where's Rage 6?" He kept asking, unable to hear each Marine's response. The lieutenant's ears were still ringing from the blast. He went up the stairs and spotted Rage 6. He took a knee. "Sir, remote control IED blast 15 meters from my RO and me. Only casualty is my RO. He took a small pellet to the foot." James's speech was interrupted by 3 or 4 quick, shallow breaths, his pale skin whiter than usual. "We got lucky, sir. They put the IED in a storm drain. The blast went straight up into the air." The two men started to coordinate the evacuation of the casualty. I headed back to the roof. One of Rage 2's squads evacuated Lance Corporal Charles Norris, the wounded RO. Sergeant Alquist began his search of the 2 target houses he was supposed to hit. Eventually, Rage 2 hit their 4 targets as well. Nothing of note was found. When the squads finished prosecuting their targets, we headed back to the Ice Palace. The next day, we conducted a relief in place with Comanche. Rage Company headed back to Combat Outpost Firecracker. Inside the comfort of the Combat Outpost's Combat Operations Center, we did a quick debrief of the Battle of Christmas with the staff. While we reviewed the last few days' events, I noticed some Army captains hanging out in the Marine base. I hadn't seen them before, and wondered what their purpose was. Tired after the debrief, I walked upstairs. Mud was caked along each step. The smell of soft, wet dirt emanated from the concrete slabs. When I got to the 3rd floor, I was taken aback. 24 soldiers were sprawled out in our common area at the top of the stairs. These guys were obviously the reason that 2 captains were hanging out in the Combat Operations Center. I was curious as to who they were. I spotted Albin talking to a few of them in the far right corner. We made eye contact, and I motioned for him to follow me. I went into the staff room and sat down on my cot. Albin came through the doorway seconds later. "Who are those soldiers out there?" I asked. He said they were the brigade reconnaissance team and were like snipers or something. Apparently, one of their sergeants first class told Albin they had been sent here because we couldn't handle it. I laughed at the foolishness of the soldier's comment, adding, "I hope they are as good as they claim to be." The next day, everyone would find out they weren't.